Hello and thanks for joining us for our playoff final preview sponsored by Momentous Academy. As ever, I'm joined by Chronicle sports editor Doug O'Kane, who's going to preview Barnsley against Sheffield Wednesday. Later on in the programme, we're going to be hearing from Michael Duff and some of the players too. But first, Doug, is this the game nobody wanted, everybody wanted, or somewhere in between?
Yeah, it's a strange one. It was probably a bit of both, but I think now it's getting closer and it might change again over the weekend when it actually dawns on us. But I think there's more a sense of excitement now, isn't it? It seems like a great occasion and people generally seem to be quite glad it's happening. When they're actually there and you realise who you're playing against in the playoff final, maybe that'll be different, but there just seems to be a sense of excitement about it at the moment. And it's a great game. It's third versus fourth. It's probably the best two teams in the league apart from the two who went up automatically, so it should be a really good match.
Yeah, it's a game that seemed possible, probable, then impossible, and then probable again.
Yeah, it did. I mean, you can never write anything off at football, but obviously 4-0 down, no one really expected Sheffield Wednesday to come back, and Barnsley I don't think Barnsley were really thinking too much about who they were playing in the final. They were generally just focused on Bolton, and they got that job done in probably a bit more of a low-key semi-final, but a good sort of 180-minute performance from Barnsley overall, which will give them confidence going into the final.
Obviously 2 Barnsley wins over the Owls this season, only team to win at Hillsborough as well all season. What are your recollections from those 2 league meetings?
I think at Hillsborough, Barnsley were brilliant. It's one of the best away performances I've seen. It was totally unexpected as well. They hadn't made a great start to the season. On Wednesday were big favourites and Barnsley were just excellent, sort of pressed them, overpowered them in midfield, just did everything you'd want them to do and were really good. Did so again at the start of the home game, but then once they changed their style after going 2-0 down, were a lot more direct, and they had a really good hour against Barnsley and probably could have come back and taken the lead, and then Barnsley finished stronger there with their slightly sort of maybe a little bit slightly fitter younger team who finished the strongest. So I thought that game at Barnsley was a really good match. Just a good South Yorkshire derby between two teams who played pretty well generally, and it could have gone either way. So Barnsley will look to learn from that, from the way Wednesday changed their style and get ready for either approach really at Wembley on Monday.
In terms of the second legs, there couldn't be a bigger contrast between what Wednesday went through and then obviously what Barnsley went through. I mean, Barnsley obviously expended less energy, I suppose, in that second leg, and than Wednesday obviously had to get through.
Yeah, probably, obviously physically, but also emotionally as well. Barnsley's felt like a sort of a stepping stone to Wembley, if you know what I mean. Everything was just a good performance and played well, but just a tense game with the prize being getting through. Whereas Wednesday, obviously, they came back from the dead almost, didn't they? So will that give them massive momentum going into the game, or will it be almost hard to wipe the slate clean and have a new fresh mindset for a new game? We'll see on Monday, I suppose.
Yeah. Are you impressed by the job Barnsley did in the second leg?
Definitely, yeah. First and second leg, I thought they were the better team in Bolton just about, and then quite easily the better team in the first half. Certainly on Friday night, probably could have scored more goals. Bolton didn't really have many chances throughout the whole game really. Started both legs fairly brightly and then couldn't maintain it. Barnsley seemed to tactically have their number. Harry Eystead didn't have much to do at all, and it got nervy in the second half, but Barnsley defended really well, and there wasn't really a time when you thought Bolton were really knocking on the door here, and you can't really pinpoint many big chances they had. So a good professional performance. Might not have been the most exciting game for a neutral, but I think it bodes well that Barnsley are in a good place.
Where do Sheffield Wednesday's dangers come from?
Well, they've got lots, haven't they? Obviously really experienced strikers who scored loads of goals, Michael Smith and Lee Gregory. Gregory always seems to score quite a few against Barnsley, including 2 at Oakwell, and Josh Windass as well, with a bit of pace in behind them. So yeah, that as well. Obviously Barry Bannon caused a lot of problems at Oakwell with his set pieces and crossing. Barnsley have to get to grips with that. Bannon against Luke O'Connell could be a really interesting battle. Who can sort of win that might win the game. And they've scored from all over, haven't they? Defenders and midfielders scoring important goals. So lots of threats, and obviously they're very solid at the back too.
Who do you class as the favourites for this match, though?
It's 50-50. I mean, I know it's a bit of a cop out, but you could say, well, Wednesday finished 10 points clear. they've had this comeback. They've obviously got a bigger budget. They've obviously got more experienced players, which could help. But then you could say, well, Barnsley's youthfulness might help. They've beaten them twice, Wednesday twice this season, and maybe you could argue in the last 6 months overall, Barnsley have been on slightly better form consistently, because Wednesday had that dip, didn't they? But you could argue either way. I obviously, from my point of view, having seen Barnsley all season and seen the progress they make, I'll maybe make them very slight favourites, but I'm sure lots of other people would make Sheffield Wednesday slight favourites, so it just is too hard to tell.
What do you think Michael Duff's going to do with his team selection?
I wouldn't be surprised at all if it's the same team. Every time you ask me this, I seem to say maybe Norwood and Tedic could swap around. That's the only, all the other positions are, I would have thought, unless there's an injury or they're doing something really funky with the lineup, it will be the same. Tedic started both games against Bolton and did well without being spectacular. Might think don't change a winning team, keep it the same. But then James Norwood scored 2-2 against Sheffield Wednesday, and him and Devante Cole really set the tone at Oakwell, and great pressing, and they've been the sort of go-to guys in most of the big games this season. Obviously not the Bolton matches, but then it kind of, whoever comes off the bench out of those two will have a big role to play as well. We could be talking about 120 minutes, and the subs might play as many minutes as the players who start. So there's lots of different variables. I wouldn't be surprised if it's the same 11. I'd probably bet on that, but Norwood could maybe replace Teddy.
Yeah. It seems to me there's not going to be many people left in South Yorkshire on Bank Holiday Monday.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what the roads and the trains are going to be like, but it will be very busy, and all the service stations down there will be absolutely rammed, won't they? But yeah, it's great. As Michael Duff said in his pre-match press conference, hopefully there's no sort of trouble, and everyone, rivalry is fine, obviously, but it doesn't spill over. But I'd like to think it just people, maybe naive, but I just hope that people just appreciate it's a great occasion, and yeah, they want their team to win, but just celebrate the fact that this is probably a once in a lifetime event that will never happen again.
Yeah, just finally on Michael Duff, what do you think his message to players has been this week, and sort of his final instructions as leaving the dressing room?
I think they're trying to keep it as normal as possible. It's worked all season, they're not going to change much. He said today he's not going to give any given Sunday-esque sort of speeches, Al Pacino speech in that film. He's not going to do anything like that, because it'd be too different to what he's done all season, which has worked. The players know their roles. Obviously they're going to be motivated playing against Sheffield Wednesday at Wembley, and with the promotion to the Championship at stake. I think it will just be a case of making sure they don't freeze and making sure they don't get too hyped up. So just keeping a lid on that, given the extraordinary circumstances that they are. But they've risen to every single hurdle they've had this season, so there's no reason that they won't keep a lid on things and deliver a really professional and good performance on Monday. In the build-up to the final, I spoke to Barnsley head coach Michael Duff, as well as players Harry Isted, Bobby Thomas and Nicky Cadden.
After the home match as well, you had a lot of success with pressing them. They were trying to play out from the back. It seemed to really rattle them, and then they went quite a bit more direct and got a lot of free kicks and putting crosses in. Is that second part what you more expect from them at Wembley? Because it seemed to an extent work here.
Well, that's what I said. They can hurt you different ways. So they tried to play one way and then flipped it. So they went against Peter again. They had an hour against us where they really turned us around and they put the balls in the box. Why wouldn't you? With people like, they've got Smith up front, and even Gregory's got a handful in the air, and they've got good delivery. And from set plays, like I said, I think they're the biggest team in the league. But we'll be prepared for all aspects. So in terms of preparation, we'll be setting, if they do try and play out, we'll be setting presses. If they go back to front, we'll look at adjusting certain things and counteracting that as well. So I'm sure Murrow will be doing exactly the same, because we don't just play with a high press, because we do have the ball sometimes. So I think we can use it. So that's the beauty of the next 2 or 3 days training, that we can just use a few touch points from the games of when we've hurt them, when we haven't.
You mentioned VAR earlier. Obviously, it's sort of been parachuted in for this game after not at all this season. What are your thoughts on that, and do you welcome it?
Oh yeah, we welcome it, because in the 2 playoff games, you're hoping that the referees don't make a mistake, whereas this one, they shouldn't. Now, we've actually got a meeting with the PGMOL this afternoon. They're coming in to speak to the players just to give them a bit more of an understanding of how it works, because we're the same as everyone else. We watched Howard Webb on Monday Night Football last week. That's probably the only insight that we've actually got into it. So that should eradicate any sort of human error, and hopefully it means, I think that's the whole reason it's been brought in, that the best team wins.
I guess for Barnsley as a football club, I don't think they've had maybe one FA Cup game with VAR, and the fans as well. It'll be a new experience for them, just to get maybe a few delays while they're waiting. Just add something to the game if it happens.
Yeah, I'd imagine it'll be used at some point for something. But yeah, it's a new experience for everybody, because I don't think, I've never been involved in it. Most of the players wouldn't have been involved in it. Obviously I've watched games with it, so that's why I'd say it's good that it's just a little bit of education so we understand what's going on.
When you first came in, obviously you said it was a chaotic summer. I mean, did this seem a long way away, and was there a time when you thought, have I made the right decision coming in?
No, because I back myself no matter what, so I didn't win a game for 10 games with Cheltenham. I didn't doubt myself at that point. I learned a lot, but I didn't doubt myself. So just a bit older, a bit wiser, a bit greyer, a lot fatter than back then. But I think I'm a firm believer. That's what I talk about. So when I did my first interview with you, I never said, people say, where do you think you're going to finish, where are you going to do that? I never said anything, and it wasn't me being evasive. It was like, well, we'll see. But I know that I'll work hard. I believe in what I do, and then obviously now we're in a shootout to get promoted. But I think talk's cheap. You can talk and talk about philosophies and all this sort of nonsense. In my opinion, it's like, can you get a group to work hard and stick together and find a way of playing? And that's what we've done as the season's gone on, and we've proved to be good at it.
You mentioned about the play right at the start of the season. You said the players were sort of had set target with it. Obviously, in-house you didn't say what it was. I mean, was it always this?
Well, this is the thing. You get them to set it, but how much they believe it or not, I don't know, because sometimes they pay lip service. So I didn't know the players at that point. Now most of them did say, but a lot of they get led by people like yourselves. So when you have the press day in the indoor centre, I watch all that, and I've had this conversation with them, and I don't know, we've just been relegated, what the target is it the playoffs? So the players almost feel like they have to get, we've got to go for the playoffs, but I don't know how much they believed it. But once you start working day to day and you start working with them, and you go, well, break it down. That's why we say half at a time. So I remember the first 10 games we set a target of coming to get 16 points, because generally, not this year, I don't think it would have done, but 1.6 points a game gets you in the playoffs. So that was the first target of the group, to try and break it down, rather than looking miles. Well, let's get in the playoffs. And it's like, it's too far down the line. What are you going to do day to day? And there's those sort of day-to-day habits, week-to-week habits. Talk about it all the time. The 3 o'clock on a Saturday is your window into your working week, and if you do it often enough, properly, results look after themselves. And I think we get to this point now, and they can look back and go, we didn't need to say that, but now we do believe. It's can they have that belief one more time?
Lastly for me, I think you've been to Wembley twice. The old one, I think, was with Cheltenham in the FA Trophy in '98, and then obviously when you got to the Premier League with Burnley against Sheffield United. Just briefly, your memories of those two.
Well, the first one, I was only 20 years old, so I didn't really take it in. So I'm probably one of the lucky ones that managed to win at the old Wembley, the new Wembley. The next one, I'm obviously 31 years old, so it's slightly different. But you just remember, I remember walking out and it was baking hot. It was full. Obviously we played Sheffield United that day, ironically, so it was, hopefully from a personal point of view, we could do a double over two Sheffield teams. But I just remember, I don't remember much about the match. It wasn't a great game, I don't think. But it's the build-up, it's the walking out, and it is special.
Versus Sheffield Wednesday at Wembley, I mean, how does that sound?
Pretty good, if I'm honest. It's probably the tie we wanted, because it would be, also we know it's going to be basically a packed house, and it's going to be an amazing game, and we're all excited for it.
Yeah, no, I bet you were obviously watching their games and thinking it could happen. Obviously, they had an amazing comeback, and you sort of more closer tie. But like you say, it's going to be a great occasion.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. Obviously, watching their games is I really enjoyed it. Do you know that it was a really good game for like the neutral, sorry. Because as again, like I didn't mind who we got, because both teams would have been really hard, and we knew it was going to be hard no matter who we got. But yeah, watching it was they've done really well to get to the final after being 4-0 down, because obviously they've created history. That's the biggest comeback in playoff history. So they've done amazing, but hopefully don't do that on Monday, and we can come out on top.
It's going to be some atmosphere, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be electric. Obviously, when we had them at Oakwell under the lights and on telly, that was amazing. That was probably one of the best I've played in, and I'm sure Wembley's going to be better.
Yeah, I know, but 70,000 fans or whatever. So
exactly.
Biggest crowd you've ever played in front of? Will it be?
Yeah,
or
I've played
at Celtic.
I played Celtic at 60, but that'll probably be the biggest if it's also looking like it might be like 70,000, 80,000. So yeah, that's probably going to be it.
Does the fact that you've got the better of them twice in the league, does it come into it much?
Not really, no. Obviously, people would think that, but at the end of the day, it's just one game now. It's 90 minutes. It's 90 minutes away for the championship, and whoever turns up in the day is going to go up, and hopefully that's us. And yeah, the better team in the day is going to do it, and we'll prepare the way we normally do it to give us the best chance possible, and yeah, hopefully we can do it and send the fans home happy.
Will we play a final against Wednesday at Wembley? I mean, you've only been at Barnsley a few months, but it doesn't come much bigger than that for Barnsley.
No, it's a derby and the biggest stage of England, so it'll be a big game for both sides involved, and we're all looking forward to it.
I'm guessing you haven't played there before. Have you been there before to Wembley?
Yeah, I've never played there before. I've been there twice, following Everton.
Oh, right.
But yeah, I'm excited to go there for the first time.
So you're an Everton fan then? Yeah. So a big couple of days for you. You'll be watching on Sunday, and then hoping, like Barnsley fans, that Leeds don't do it, and then Monday, obviously, it's your turn.
Yeah, I think it's got to be a good weekend.
Yeah, good stuff. Obviously, your club mates at Burnley have got promotion this season. I imagine you've been in touch with them quite a bit, and hoping to do it for your loan club as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. I've been in touch with most of them, and they've done a fantastic job this year. And hopefully we can get it done for Barnsley as well, because it's a massive club here, and hopefully send them in the right steps, the right direction. Sorry. What's it been like for you because you arrived in January when the club was doing well, but it's just been an upwards trajectory ever since, really, pretty much almost winning it every game, and obviously now at Wembley. Yeah, it's been a really good half of the season. Came in not really knowing what to expect, as you do with any of the sort of club you've never been at before, and it's been quite smooth. Picked up a lot of points, and enjoyed all my football here, really. Great stuff. And on your future, I mean, I think the man just said there's a clause if Barnsley go up. I mean, if they win, is that probably going to be a permanent player at Barnsley here? I mean, it could be. I'm not too sure on what's happening, but I think there is a clause in there, and what happens with it, I'm not sure at the moment. But it's not a bad club to come back to, is it? Yeah, exactly. It's somewhere that you, obviously, especially in the Championship, I imagine you can see yourself developing. Most definitely. Yeah. Only been at Barnsley a few months, and you're already about to play in one of the most anticipated games for a while. I mean, it's going to be a great one, isn't it?
Yeah, obviously coming in January, that the club's in and around the playoffs, and then after January, or even through January, you just hit a great run of form, and it's where we kind of deserve to be. I think even teams like Sheffield Wednesday get 96 points, and they're in the playoffs. It's a competitive, been a competitive league this season, yeah. Yeah, and just that derby element. I mean, I know it is just another game. It's just another opponent, but just to the spectacle, it just adds something to it, doesn't it? Yeah, definitely. There's obviously bragging rights for the fans. Obviously, we want to do this for the fans, especially after last season. Get relegated would be the perfect way to bounce back, get a promotion this season. Yeah. It was obviously a great night when you played them here a few months ago, and you made that a great save. I mean, good memories from that, I guess. Yeah, I think that's my favourite game of the season so far. Hopefully that gets bettered on Monday, but yeah, we've played them twice and won twice, but I think it's different now because of the stage that it's on, and we can't look back at that thinking, we've won two, and we're just going to turn up and do it again.
I suppose one of the differences between the two teams is they've got loads and loads of experience. Barnsley not as much, but I guess you could look at it both ways, couldn't you? And maybe it works in Barnsley's advantage to just be young and fearless, I suppose.
Yeah, you say that. Obviously, people with experience might have had bad experiences at Wembley and bad playoff experiences, so it can work either way. But obviously, we're young and we're hungry, and that's what will work in our favour, I guess. Yeah.
Been to Wembley before?
Only to watch, yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, your parent club will be there on Saturday. I mean, I'm guessing you'll be training with Barnsley or whatever. But will you be keeping an eye on that game?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, I wish them all the best because they've had a great season as well, especially topping last season and get to the semis of the playoffs. But they've gone that one step further, and hopefully they can get that win on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I know you're focusing on Barnsley, and we will, but Luton in the Premier League, wow, that would be some achievement.
That's what I said. You look back at the history of Coventry and Luton, both in League Two together, both went up, and then from League One, I think Coventry went up the season after. But yeah, to have one of those two teams in the Premier League is pretty remarkable. Yeah. Yeah,
and I'm guessing with your future, it will just be decided after the game, just see what you get offered, I suppose, and where you want to be.
Obviously, I'm up at the end of the season, but that's up to the guys behind the scenes here to talk to me about that, but I'm not really looking into that until after the game Monday. Yeah.
Obviously, like you said before, it's a club that you have, it's gone really well, and somewhere that you could potentially, if things are right, see your future here.
Yeah, I've loved my time here. I've loved living up here as well, and I've settled in well. And I'd be lying to say I wouldn't like to stay here, but obviously that's the discussion to have after Monday.
I think you'd only played 3 league games before you came here, so play, I don't know how many it is, 15 or 20, whatever you've played. I mean, it's been massive for your career, hasn't it?
Yeah, massive. I think, especially with Wembley coming up, it feels really soon for me, but at the same time, like, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, and you never know when you're going to be at Wembley ever again.
I suppose it's not like you're a sort of 18-year-old playing in your first season. You have been around football, and you're an older person as well.
Yeah, I've got that experience of being around first teams and being on the bench and having the odd start and the odd cameo off the bench. So yeah, I'm always confident when I come onto the pitch, and it's not just obviously another game, but we'll be preparing that kind of way. And as soon as you step out onto that pitch, then it just becomes kind of a normality. Yeah.